And welcome back to Petology. We're going to call this the Home Sweet Home segment because we're going to be talking about different methods of taking care of various kinds of animals. Now, we're getting close to Halloween, even though we're kind of getting, into that frame of mind, into that kind of mood, and we're going to be talking tarantulas today. So I'm here with Sammy, our animal expert, and she's got a couple of real nice creepy crawlies here with us today. So tell me a little bit about what you have right there.
Well, this is Charlotte, and she is what's called commonly called a rose-haired tarantula.
Rose-haired.
The scientific name is Grammostola rosea. And these are probably the most docile, the most quote-unquote friendly type of tarantula. They're relatively easy to care for.
Nice.
They don't require a lot in terms of humidity, temperature, and they're quite hardy.
Excellent. Now, Charlotte, first off, perfect name, Charlotte's Web. I'm sure that was by design, was not an accident. Just a little bit, right? Now, normally, tarantula isn't really the first type of animal you would think to be a pet, and especially here in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Do we find that there's a lot of instances of people, buying tarantulas?
I think for some there are. It's a culture, so to speak. What drew me to them is actually when I started researching tarantulas, the colors that some of them go in. A lot of them are illegal in Winnipeg, but I mean, you can get tarantulas that are the color blue of the top of that tank, that are bright pinks, bright purples, and that's what kind of drew me to them, how unique they are. People always think, black fuzzy.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's so much more to them.
No, for something like this, where would a normal region for this type of animal, where would it come
Chile.
from? Chile?
Chile, yeah.
Really?
That's it.
So
Chilean rose hair.
Oh, wow. a South American
Yeah.
Manages to migrate itself over here. That's fantastic. Now, taking care of something like this is, I'd be a novice. This isn't something that you'd normally think about. Now, in terms of cages, in terms of where it would occupy, what would be involved?
Well, this is Charlotte's kind of area here. So for this species, they like a little bit more drier.
Right.
So that's kind of how their ground is, a bit more dry. You always want to make sure that they have a hidey hole, so I got a couple of things there that they can crawl up in. One of the big things is you don't want to go height. A lot of people think high. If tarantulas fall, that's essentially it for them. So
they're kind of fragile.
Yeah, nice and low. And then, of course, always having a water dish so they can access water.
Of course. Food. Now, once again, it's not something that you would right away think about off the top of your head, but what do they like to eat?
Primarily, they eat crickets.
Crickets?
Yeah, primarily they eat crickets. They can also have horned worms or super worms. But it's a bug diet, essentially. They're not going to be eating a steak or a carrot or anything like that.
No, back to the sweets from the last segment.
Yeah,
too,
no,
so
they don't like any of that.
And with something like that, diet-wise, how often do they eat?
They eat about once a week. Depending
Wow.
on the size, whether they're molting, when they're going into pre-molt, which means they're going to shed their skin. They're not going to eat in about a week after. They probably won't eat. And you have to vary the size. So for example, I'm going to see if I can just put her down for a sec, sneak my hand up.
I think you can. We got that
here,
covered.
We got a tiny, tiny little tarantula.
Multitasking here. It's working
Where
out
did
very
it
well.
go? I don't know if you can get in there, but it's right in there.
See
She's
if
about the size of a dime.
Our illustrious
so again,
cameraman can do it.
this is just a scaled down version of essentially the same setup, kind of a drier material. So a couple hidey holes, and a lot of this stuff, I mean, some you can see that are bought from the store, but these are also Kinder Egg surprises that make great Chihuahua tarantulas.
We're in like a dog theme here today, so that works out good.
But the dish is just a pop bottle lid, so you don't really, it's not inexpensive.
You don't need much. That's
animal.
actually pretty affordable
Not
for
at all.
something if you want to take care of something a little bit. How old would one like that be over there? That looks very, very
That
old.
one is probably about 8 months old.
About 8 months old? Wow.
8 months old, and that one's a different breed. It's called the Mexican Red Knee or Brachypelma smithii. So, and both these are types of tarantulas you can legally have in Winnipeg. There's one more called an aviculera, or commonly known as the pink toad, and these are the three that you can legally have in Winnipeg.
I hope I'm not being tested on this later, because that's a lot to remember. But
big names.
Where are some of the types that aren't actually legal in town? There are some, obviously, getting them is just kind of, really difficult or...
Well, it's actually not. There's places online where you can pretty much get any kind of tarantula. There's a very popular website called Tarantula Canada, and you can pretty much order any type of tarantula on there. But again, they won't, like if you're in Winnipeg, they can't ship to you. So you have to make sure that you're in an area, region where they do allow the different breeds. But there's over hundreds.
Well, you know what, we've learned a lot here today about tarantulas, and being the time of the season that it is, you know, you're really going to want to do something, and you want to get something really unique and exotic. This is the way to go. So right now, I'm going to throw to another story, and we'll be back right after this.
See how close she stays to me.
Walking through the mall used to be next to impossible for veteran Anthony Gunkel. He suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. The crowds would trigger panic and anxiety attacks. But with Allie, things are different.
Allie keeps me out of the hospital. And I've had so many crisis moments in the last couple of years. But since I had her, you know, just petting the dog and having the dog lean against me or sit beside me on the couch while I'm watching a DVD makes all the difference in the world.
The two were brought together by Courageous Companions, a program that donates service dogs to veterans. This generosity inspired Svet's Pets to join the effort.
So once they get a dog, they get everything that comes with a dog. They get a crate, they get a bed, they get travel bowls, dishes, canine first aid kits, chew toys, brushes, absolutely everything you need to own a dog. We don't want our veterans out of pocket at all.
The former Blue Bomber says working with Courageous Companions opened his eyes to what the men and women in the military have experienced.
We have a guy who can't walk on his front lawn unless it's been swept for mines, or people that can't throw something in the garbage can because those are IEDs in Afghanistan. You know, they have to have TVs on at night so there's noise because it's always quiet before an attack.
We've had guys that have tried to kill themselves 4 and 5 times that are now back to work. I've had guys that lived in the basement, build themselves a bunker. They lived down there for 6 months. I'd rather have the guy outside. People get back into life.
To some, this may just look like a stroll through the mall, but it's actually a critical part of the process to become a service dog.
Good job.
The public is the most difficult part of the training because they want to pet the dog, they call the dog, they talk to the dog. So here we're trying to desensitize the dog to all the sights and sounds that are in here. Because if you have PTSD and you come in with your dog, the last thing you want to be doing is being worried about caring and controlling the dog.
For more information on how you can be a part of Svet's Pets Helping Vets or Courageous Companions, check them out online. For Go Winnipeg, I'm Blair Malstravich.
Yeah, good job. Good boys.
Everybody, welcome back to Petology. Did you miss me? I missed you. Anyways, we decided to go a little bit bigger with the animals now, and I've got Leland here from the city of Winnipeg, and he's brought a big furry friend here. Tell us a little bit about this guy right here.
Well, this is Maximus. He's about 2 years old. He was found as a stray, not licensed, running the streets of Winnipeg. So we held him, and then after 3 days, if a dog comes in not wearing a license, it typically goes up for adoption. And so now he's waiting for a wonderful home. He's looking for an experienced dog owner, somebody who's strong. He's very friendly. He loves to give kisses.
He does.
He slobbers. He loves to slobber on people. He knows sit. He knows paw. He's also very strong.
So he is well
it's
trained.
important that somebody has very strong arms to be able to handle this dog and takes him to some good dog training.
These are just show muscles, so don't know if that rules me right out there.
Right.
But breed of dog? He looks like kind of a Rottweiler.
He's kind of a Rottweiler mix, yeah.
Yeah, he's obviously, very playful. We've been having a lot of fun with him in the green room, and he's been a real trooper. He's been waiting a little bit, but he's really doing a great job tonight.
Absolutely.
Glad to have him. Now, you are with Animal Control Services. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
So we're the City of Winnipeg Animal Services Agency. We're at Logan and McPhillips. We're open 7 days a week. So if people want to check us out, I encourage them to come on down. But we essentially do animal control in Winnipeg, bylaw enforcement.
Excellent.
That's everything from stray dogs running down the street to my neighbor's dog's barking, what are you guys going to do about it? To licensing, to emergency response. So there's lots of things that we do. We do about 10,000 activities a year that involve something with an animal.
That, like incident level, that
everything.
kind of thing.
So people, they can call 311. Through 311, we get calls of enforcement activities such as dogs running loose where they're not supposed to, or my neighbor has a cat or a dog and it's not licensed. What are you guys going to do about it? That kind of stuff. So about 10,000 calls a year.
That's incredible. I never realized it was at that volume. Any interesting, weird type of calls that you something completely off the map?
Well, at the end of the day, we always encourage people to own dogs and cats as companion animals.
Excellent.
the majority of calls that we handle are dogs, but we come across once in a while exotic animals when they're, they're not in the best of shape. They're on the streets or whatever. So, the occasional exotic animal, the occasional commercial animal from a goat or a chicken or something like that. But at the end of the day, most of the work that our team of staff and volunteers do is companion animals such as dogs and the occasional cat.
No, it's a fantastic amount of work you do now. In addition to what you do, now you are involved in licensing, you are involved in bylaw enforcement. Now, over the last month or so, there have been some changes to the bylaws and the rules. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so we haven't any changes. We've actually had dog licensing in Winnipeg for over 100 years.
Yes.
We became something known as zero tolerance in 2011 on dog licensing, which meant if, at the end of the day, for people who chose not to get a license for whatever reason, if our officers made contact with you, you're going to get a ticket.
Right.
Last year we brought in cat licensing, 2015. So what's happened recently is now we've had a 2-month period where we did a lot of advertising to let the community know about licensing.
He's getting playful again.
And also to give people a chance to become legal for the people who've chosen not to license their pets. So we've had a good turnout from the community at Animal Services.
Fabulous.
You can also license your pet through 311
Yes.
or on winnipeg.ca. But at the end of the day, people have to understand that we have there's studies that were done in the right around 2008 that there was about over 100,000 dogs and another additional 100,000 cats, well over, that are owned by people as companion animals. And because in Winnipeg we have so many people that own so many dogs and cats, we have to have massive services. The city has massive services in place to help those owners in the rare event they need our help. And what is that? Well, it's animal services, their facility to take in dogs. But we also have a contract with the Winnipeg Humane Society where the city pays the Humane Society to be the place where Winnipeggers can take in stray cats. We have emergency response. So if there's a house fire at 2 in the morning tonight and there's animals involved, we respond with the fire and paramedic service to help those animals. There's lots of things that we do. So licensing it's about 2 things. It's about adding some protections to your pet. So when you get a license, you put it on your dog, you put it on your cat with a breakaway collar. And in the rare event your dog or cat gets out, 311 operators can actually reunite your pet without that pet ever setting foot in a shelter. And they reunited about 600 pets last year.
600 pets? Wow.
Which is a cool thing, but it's also about revenue generation. So I said all the things that we do to help people with pets, those have to be paid for. So the majority of our funding at the end of the day, when we're being honest with the community, the majority of our funding comes from pet licensing. So it's twofold, protecting your pet and then having really good services in place in the rare event that you need our help.
And that's fantastic. And what a lot of people fail to realize with that is that there is a lot of people that you employ, and you have a decent-sized staff that you really have to kind of.
So I'd counter that, say we don't have a lot of staff.
Oh no,
we have a very small staff. And we have also a very a good team of volunteers.
Volunteer staff.
But all the things that we do at the end of the day, we're open 7 days a week. We have 24-hour emergency response. At the end of the day, I think people understand that licensing is not a unique thing in Winnipeg.
No.
Every major city in Canada, or almost every major city in Canada, has dog and cat licensing. And the reason they have it is to protect those pets, but also to generate revenues, to have those massive services. We didn't have these services in place if we had nowhere that you could take your dog, and nowhere you could take your cat, and no emergency response, and no adoption program. At the end of the day, this great dog here, the easiest thing to do when a dog comes in and you don't have a home for it is euthanize it. But the harder thing to do with a dog like this is to put it into an adoption program, have spaying and neutering, all this stuff. But because we have people purchasing licenses and helping generate revenue, we have a very progressive adoption program. And so we're there to help the animals, and we're also there to help the community when they need us.
It's a fantastic amount of work you do, and of course, he's available for adoption?
Well, absolutely.
He's ready to go. So people who want a little bit more information, obviously you can go to a website. City of Winnipeg has a website and a link for that, and I believe we're going to be having that posted on the screen hopefully in a second. And first off, I want to thank you both for coming here today and filling us in on what you do, because it is an important job, and it's very it's a necessary service. And we thank you for what you do, and we thank Maximus for being an absolute trooper. And we'll be right back after this.